Hello, career competitor. This is Steve Mellor, as always, here to share with you some powerful conversation and some significant insights into what it means to optimize your career in pursuit of your optimal self. I am excited to be introducing our guest here shortly. But as always, let me draw your attention to careercompetitor.com, where you'll see right at the top of that homepage is a place where you can enter your email and become a part of my monthly subscription, my mid-monthly message, where I am just simply giving you that little nudge in the middle of the month to remember that whatever it was you set out to achieve with all that energy at the outset of the month and whatever those lofty goals may be at the end of the month, that you're not going to lose sight of that journey in between. Become a part of my community today. Head to careercompetitor.com, enter your email, and look forward to my next mid-monthly message. Now, let's get right into the show. Hello there, and welcome into this episode of Career Competitor, where I get to welcome in Jake Burhans to the show, and he will get the introduction that all guests get here in a moment. But three things to be on the lookout for within this episode, amongst other things. Firstly, the value that comes from always showing up every day. Secondly, we talk about why we must find a clear definition for what hard truly means when it comes to hard work. And finally, we cover the importance of looking at your career and personal growth through the lens of the infinite game. So these three things, much more within this really impactful, high-intensity episode. So let's welcome in my guest, Jake Burhans, to this episode of Career Competitor, and I hope you all enjoy it. Okay, our career competitor is a real estate entrepreneur who owns and operates two separate companies with QA home buyers. Our guest is on a mission to empower communities by providing solutions for homeowners looking to sell their properties. Additionally, with their second business, Maple Birch Properties, our guest is an active real estate investor with holdings in the New Hampshire area. So, with our guests making strides within their career, both from both sides of the consumer experience within the real estate industry, it's fair to say we stand to learn a lot from this self-starter and highly motivated competitor. So let's welcome in to the show, Mr. Jake Burhans. Jake, how are we doing, brother?
I'm doing so good, Steve. Thanks for having me. Absolutely love the name of the podcast. I think there's so much to dive into with the name of Career Competitor. I think there's just there's a lot to that. I'm excited.
Yeah, man. I've been looking forward to this one. And as we were just kind of chatting off air, there's something about you reaching out to me the way in which you did and the enthusiasm that I actually felt around that. It's funny when people reach out to me and they send me an Instagram message or whatever it is. Sometimes it's just very nonchalantly, kind of passive. And I'm just like, well, listen, if you're not going to make the effort to grab my attention, why am I going to give you my attention? But you grabbed my attention, brother. You were very insistent that you were the kind of personality and individual that we should be having on the show. And I'm already in complete agreement with that from the short time I've gotten to know you. So excited for this one, brother. Let's start off with kind of an easy one for you. Talk to me about the competitor that you are. When I say, Jake, tell me about the competitor that you are, how might you answer that question?
I mean, I played hockey for a long time at kind of the highest level growing up until I'd gotten hurt before college, but always showing up. I mean, I would always pride myself on being the only one to never miss a workout or a training session, right? When we were on vacations and breaks, I would always be there, me and a few other guys, right? But I would never be missing things. So always showing up and having the discipline. I think discipline is a huge thing when it comes to being a competitor, whether that's in sports or in business or really anything. But I think that showing up is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, and that is, I love that you're starting here because you're not telling people, be your best, always focus on 100%, etc. You're just simply saying sometimes the key to competing and the key to being around long enough to compete with the best is just having that desire and that willingness, that appetite, if you will, just to keep coming back, to keep showing up, to keep waking up maybe when few people around you are willing to wake up. That's kind of what I'm hearing from you.
100%, because things don't happen overnight, right? I
Right.
mean, it's really about consistency over intensity, right? Now, if you can bring intensity to your consistency, then that's obviously going to get you there quicker. But like get I didn't build my skills as a goalie in hockey overnight, right? It was 15 years, 16, 17 years of consistency, right? It wasn't that I just decided, all right, I'm going to start hockey. I'm just going to train 10 hours a day and, I'll be elite in 6 months. No, it
Right.
doesn't work like that. It's 1 hour of practice, 3 days a week for 15 years. Right. And that's boring. So people don't want to do that. But it's the consistency, not necessarily the intensity, that gets you those results over time.
That's a good one. Consistency over intensity. And I think even in my world, just as a coach, the one thing that had always almost kind of driven me crazy back from when I was coaching swimming was people giving me a week of great stuff. And then the week after, it wasn't quite as good. And then the week after that, they were a little less motivated. And slowly, after a while, as a coach, you give the support, you give the motivation, you tell them why they should be there, why they can up their efforts. And for whatever reason, you're not seeing the return. And it's because they wanted to see such an immediate return on that one effort of intensity. And when they didn't see it, suddenly now the lure of just coming back and doing it again wasn't quite as great as it maybe could have been or was the week before. So where did that come from? Like, what was it about hockey? What was it about the process for you that made this something that wasn't just 6 months, that it was a 15, 16, 17-year commitment?
I think it was the why, right? And it's such a kind of uh, I don't know, like a cheesy kind of thing. Everyone says it's about your why and all those things. But as a young hockey player, just like any athlete, what do you want to do? You want to go to the pros, right? And that's such a compelling vision that you're just so emotionally tied to that it drags you through everything. Like I'm going to play Division 1. I'm going to go to the NHL, all these things. That would get me through the worst workouts, right? The worst training sessions, the worst games, right? I'm having a slum, or I'm having a tough part of my season, right? Mentally, I'm going to get over it because I got to make it to the NHL. I got to do these things. So I think it really was the why, that driving force. And people talk about it all the time, right? It's your why that's going to get you through the tough times. And that absolutely was the case with hockey, right? It got me through everything because the end goal is just so compelling and so exciting for me that I was willing to do anything to get there.
Yeah, and I love how the first thing you said there when we say, we start talking about the why, people immediately go, yeah, it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit this, it's a bit that. But what you immediately did there was you underlined it like 5 times in terms of what a why should look like. It should be so purpose driven. It should be so specific and so huge that it does get you through the worst of times. I think some people want a why that serves them only through the best of times. And when the worst of times do come, they just like, oh, I had the wrong why. And they throw it out. Yeah, I got to find a new one so that
Yeah.
everything's great, everything's good. And yet you obviously here, you are living proof as I am of this notion of if the why is strong enough, you actually got to hold it almost as an anchor during those difficult times, because chances are, especially whether it be in sport or through some of this stuff we're going to go into with you building your businesses, there's probably going to be more adversity than there is actually going to be the good times. And that's what's always so funny when I talk to someone from sport is they usually laugh at that and they're like, yeah, practice was pretty hard. It wasn't like great and enjoyable all the time. It was pretty hard. Like we had these moments where we won and you enjoy it for like an hour, and then you start thinking about the next game and the next week of training and all this kind of thing. And so, just talk to me a little bit about how it was that you sort of came to that realization that a why can't simply be this thing that you just sort of have and then throw away and then create a new one, and why the consistency of that why was able to serve you for so long.
Yeah. I think it's interesting with hockey. I think it was easy for that why to serve me just because all the things that came with being in the NHL and you'd be famous and popular and all these things. As a kid, you wanted those things, right? Oh, money, I'd be popular and all these things. So I think that was kind of easy. What was more difficult was finding my why in business, right? Something that was compelling enough to keep me going in the tough times of business. Um, and I think it evolves over time. Like when I had started our business initially, I will say it was largely money driven, right? I was like, I want a lot of money and all these things. But after you get a few big checks, you start to do those things, that just wears off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of need to figure out what is your big why that's going to allow you to get through those different things. And for me now, like I'd said off air here, I think the biggest thing is seeing other people win. That's truly what I find enjoyment out of. That's why I like to go on podcasts. And that's why I'm building my own real estate community with just a bunch of free value in there, because I want to see other people get their first deals, get into entrepreneurship, because I think it's one of the greatest self-development tools on the face of the earth, right? Because the person you have to become in order to be successful in entrepreneurship is someone who's just going to develop you in all aspects of your life, right? You're disciplined. You got to show up. You got to be persistent, right? You got to be positive. You have to have an abundant mindset, all of these things. So I think giving other people that is my compelling why now in business, which took me a little bit to find.
Yeah, I almost want to say you're giving yourself a little bit of a disservice with the hockey part of this, in terms of just like how easy that why came in terms of the professional idea, because every time you go up a level in sport, the awareness of what comes with actually achieving that gets clearer and clearer, and that's when people get discouraged. That's when people start to disappear, and that idea of just having the fame, having the fortune, having the success, whatever it may be, it becomes less and less appealing, because you start to have the realization of what comes with it. And you were able to keep going 15, 16, 17 years. So for you to do it that long, I think, and to still have that sort of North Star of just like, hey, I'm this is why I'm doing it, even though I know every level that I go, it's getting more and more difficult. It's challenging more and more. It's asking more and more of me. You kept going with that. So I just want to kind of, anybody that heard that sort of, hey, this is easy, I just want to add that sort of caveat there, because I think you are, like I said, doing yourself a disservice in that you kept doing it for so long, that while the why may have come easy, what came with pursuing it is where the challenge truly lied. And you've taken that lesson now into what you're doing with the business, and what you've done, I love this, is you've actually been able to take that very perspective of how easy the why came to you when you were doing hockey, and now be able to say in business that, hey, for whatever reason, this initial why, it ain't sitting with me the way it should be sitting with me. I need a why that came as easy as that why came in hockey, because I know what came from that was the outpouring of effort, the discipline, all this consistency that you're talking about. I'm hearing that from you in that story. Does that kind of resonate with you?
Yeah, I think it's a good point about how people will get discouraged as things get harder. I think the perspective I had was that as it got harder in my head, I'm like, okay, more and more people are going to drop out at these levels as it gets harder, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I was like, I know I can make it through this. Like, I'm going to grind through this. Like, this is where everyone's quitting right here, right? I'm going to push harder, right? So it was almost like a game for me in hockey in that sense, because I knew I was willing to put in more work than anyone. Like, I would outwork anyone. You know, you kind of have that mindset. So I was like, okay, it's hard, great. Let's get after it, right? Because I know everyone else is complaining, everyone else is taking the day off, everyone else is doing whatever they're doing. So in my head, I was like, if I can just get through these levels, each tier up that's harder is less people I'm competing with, and in essence, closer I am to that ultimate goal of whatever it is, right? So it's levels to it. But it's understanding, like, also I follow Alex Hormozi a lot, and he has such a good quote or kind of saying of like, this is what hard feels like, right? Like when I started in hockey, I wanted to go to the NHL, right? Obviously I didn't go to the NHL, but did I think that was going to be easy? No, I thought it was going to be hard, right? So when I'm doing the workout at 5 o'clock in the morning, right, and I don't want to do it, and I have to go work construction, this is what I did when I was a teenager. After that, I didn't want to do it, but that's what hard feels like, right? You knew it was going to be hard when you signed up. This is hard, right? So push through it. And it's the same thing in business, right? Starting a business, I didn't think it was going to be easy, right? But you don't know what hard is, right? Conceptually, you don't know what that is. It's going to be hard. Great. Yeah, I'm ready for it. Ready for it, Jake. Okay, awesome. Well, when you have to make 50 calls a day and be on the phone for, 2, 3, 4 hours talking to sellers all day, and you don't get a deal for 4 months, that's what hard feels like. Jake, I've made 5,000 calls. I haven't got a deal yet. I'm like, yeah. Takes a lot of work. This is what hard feels like, you got to sit in there and do it.
Oh, we're on the good stuff now, brother. We're on the good stuff now. When we start talking about what hard feels like, the education that is doing hard things, it's absolutely massive. It's absolutely massive in terms of everything that we represent on the show. And one thing I actually love about your story is it didn't end with this big Hollywood ending of like, I went to the NHL, and all this kind of thing. You pursued that, and you took so much from that process that you were able to transition into entrepreneurship where you are today and apply the very same principles. Because to your point, you got pretty damn far through the process. You just didn't get to the very end. And that's okay. Like, again, like, you can still learn so much from the fact that from a survival of the fittest, you survived a lot longer than the majority. And that in itself is a success. I can speak to that from my swimming career too, from hundreds of other athletes that we've had on the show. Of they didn't get the Olympic gold medal, they didn't go to the Olympic Games, they didn't make the national team, they didn't make their varsity team, whatever it is. All these stories still come with huge, powerful teachings that you can immediately transition and put into this other walk of life. So I want to hear more now about how you've gotten to this point with your business today, where you're performing in a way where you have the ability to start prioritizing the success of other people. As you said, you want to see other people win. Talk to us a little bit about how the company has gotten to where it is now, the two companies, how they've gotten to where they are today, and why it is you find yourself in this position where you can start to maybe prioritize the success of other people.
Yeah, I think in its most basic form is just consistent action over a long period of time, showing up every single day. And again, the consistency over intensity. So the two companies, Maple Birch is more of our holding company. We have a number of buildings in that company, but that's kind of on hold while we build our other business, QA Homebuyers, which is essentially a wholesale company, which I won't get into the nitty gritty of that. But we're essentially building that up with the ultimate goal of getting out of it, hiring all the positions, buy our time back, and then that business is a cash flowing asset that we can ultimately go buy apartment buildings with. That's kind of our vision. How did it get there? Well, started on the dialer, cold calling. When I was in college, junior year, I'd go to the business school. I had a triple line dialer, which means it dials 3 numbers at once. I'd go to the business school. I'd hit start. I'd want to throw up, and I would just sit there for 4 hours and call people for 4 hours and ask them if they would consider an offer on their property. And I did that for far too long. I should have hired a cold caller way sooner, but I did that for like a year and a half. Did a number of deals senior year in college. I turned down the accounting and finance jobs that I was going to have. I said, no, I want to do real estate. Bar backed for 6 months while I built the business up because it wasn't bringing in like enough money to live on.
Sure.
And eventually you just start, but ultimately the reason I'm able to get to where I am now is just a team, man, right? You start out wearing all the hats and then you slowly just hire different positions. And as you get more and more leads in business, and then you slowly just work your way up.
Yep. But the first lesson came straight from that same lesson that you took from hockey, which is awesome. Just that willingness to show up and do things during college that few people, you could have been sat on a couch watching Netflix for those 4 hours every day. You could have, because I'm sure a lot of people that you knew were doing that, and you chose not to. And I think that is where we start to suddenly see now the almost defining moment with where you are today. Like those choices, it's not about what you necessarily did, it's what you were able to actually prevent yourself from doing. I'm sure you still made time to watch TV and things like that and goof off with your buddies and whatever it may be and have some of that college experience. But at the same time, within that college experience, you were able to say, listen, if I want to get to where I want to be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, the best way that I can do that is to actually get ahead and start practicing some of these habits of consistency that have served me so well in other walks of life up to this point. And so today, as you start to build your team, I'm curious, how are you able to get some of these teachings of yours, some of these obvious lessons of yours, and now in this role as a leader, how are you maybe getting this across to your team? How is your team learning from this process that you've obviously gone through over your lifetime?
Yeah, it's a good question. And those are skills I'm developing, right? Like we have a number of lead generation people. We have like an appointment setting, kind of like a BDR role, an SDR role for people who understand corporate business. And then we have our closers, our acquisition reps, which we just hired our first one. So now I'm not even closing the deals anymore, right? So I have to understand how to lead. And I'm reading this book called Multipliers by Liz Weissman, which is a very, very phenomenal book on leadership. But it teaches you how to be a multiplier, right? And how to lead and how to get that message across. So I think it's working in tandem with your people, right? Supporting them. You're not micromanaging. You're not hovering over them. You're not jumping in and taking the lead from them and closing the deal because he couldn't do it. No, it's coaching them up, getting them back in there, showing them that you have confidence and all these things in them. So I think it's just support daily. It's the culture you create. And ultimately, yeah, I think just the confidence and training and things like that. But it is an interesting point because in business, it's really like 60 to 70% of the success of the business is really the systems,
Mm-hmm.
right? Are you putting someone in the right place? Do they have the right tools? All those things. 30 to 40% is like the skill of the person and then the leadership as well, right? But the majority is, do you have the proper systems for someone to succeed? Because you could have the best person in the world, but if the business is a disaster operationally, then it's going to be tough for someone to come in and see that success, you know?
This is a really important piece of information. It's funny, this isn't the first time we've had a similar insight. This year, a couple of episodes ago, we had a gentleman, Nelson Nigel, come on and talk about the importance of foundation and why if you want to grow exponentially, don't build a foundation that is based upon not growing exponentially. Like, build the foundation that you want for the growth that you want to see. And now you're talking about it from a systems standpoint. So it's almost that next step beyond the foundation. Once you've got that foundation in place, how do you start creating systems for people to be successful? And that's what you just said there. You didn't say for people to come in and just work, for people to be
Yeah.
successful. And that is a big,
Yeah.
big underline, bold, all the things, circle it 3 or 4 times. It's not about building a system for people just to come in and be a part of. It's about being successful. How have you been able to do that, man?
Well, I think first of all, you have to have done it, right? You have to have worn all the hats, right? So
Right.
basically, how you scale the business is you start out wearing all the hats, right? What's the first thing you're going to hire out? It's the lowest level thing. It's cold calling. As I'm cold calling, I'm writing out how to be successful as a cold caller. As I'm doing it, as I'm finding success. Okay, have a positive attitude. Make sure you dig in on the motivation. Make sure your tone is good, right? Make sure that you have a good intro. All these things, right? That's in like a document, right? So then when I go to hire out that cold call position, hey, here's the standard operating procedure or the how to be a good cold caller best practices, right? And then that's going to set them up for success. And then you slowly work up the ladder, right? So now I'm a lead manager, right? Now I'm a lead manager and a closer. I know lead management's the next thing I'm going to hire out, right? It's the next lowest thing, or the next highest thing. How to be a good lead manager, right? Follow up, make sure you're persistent, make sure you're reaching out to them 3 times a day. All these things. As I'm finding success for myself, I'm writing those things down. You slowly do that for each position. So that's how you set someone up for success. You have to know how to find success. You can't just start the business and write these things out and you've never done it because you don't know what success is.
How to set up someone for success is to know how to find success. That's a good one. And just and that can be on an individual basis. I want to just be abundantly clear to someone who's listening to this and thinking, well, I don't have a team right now. What does that look like for me in my world? It's like, well, there's other people on this planet. There's other people. There's other people in your network. There's people that you can go to that can explain to you, hey, I know what success you're trying to get, and I know what direction you're trying to go. This is the way I did it. This is, I mean, and there's an element of mentorship involved in everything that you're talking about here, but you're doing it from your experience. You're not opening just like, you may be reading the odd textbook here and there about leadership and whatnot, but there's no more powerful sort of template for success than the one that you yourself wrote, the one that you yourself created. And that's what you're saying here. And I'm curious, just let's maybe look at some adversity, some failures, if dare I say it, that you've had as you've built this business. What have those failures, what have some of those adversities maybe taught you about everything that you've obviously come to now realize is so important? What have the failures taught you? What have the adversities taught you through this process?
I think some of the biggest adversity is not really any one big failure or adversity. I mean, obviously, we've had hiring adversities, not hiring the right person. That was a big learning lesson with our lead manager. We had hired someone, and I was just putting in so much time and effort training for months and months and months and just weren't seeing the results. But I had never hired anyone before, so I didn't know that that was not the right thing, right? I didn't know that I should have moved on earlier. But as soon as I got the right person in the seat, I was like, oh my gosh. Like she was just setting appointments, doing all the things. I didn't have to hawk over her. She knew exactly what to do. I was like, oh my God. And that was like the first time I was like, wow, good talent is phenomenal, right? So that was a big lesson in hiring. But I think the biggest kind of adversity just throughout the duration of the entire business has been mindset, right? And dealing with the inconsistent results, the inconsistent income when you're getting started, all of those things, and being able to continue to put the work in every day. And I think being a part of a community of people who do the same thing as you is going to be a solution to that. Hiring a coach, right, is going to cut down on your time. Because yes, you need to know how to find success from your own experiences, but you can boost that by tapping into other people's experiences as well, right? Whether it's a coach or a community, people who have done the thing that you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, just so all my listeners know, I didn't give Jake a bunch of stuff of like, hey, these are the 3 or 4 things that I absolutely love talking about. You just happen to be nailing it, brother. You just happen to be bringing all the thunder of what I love to talk about on this show, and dealing with the inconsistency. It's so funny. We're speaking. It is February 19th as we speak, and I put something on my social media, even just as today, about the fact that if you're waiting for the result to create that belief that you need to do the work, you've got it all wrong. You've got to let the work build the belief, knowing that the result will come. And that is what you're talking about here, is that the greatest adversity has been having to be patient about the result, because the inconsistency that is going to come from those results. You've been able to look at the body of work. Your team have been able to stay together and look at the body of work and say, hey, guys, we're doing a lot of the right things. It's just not our time right now. For whatever reason, it's just not our time right now. But we've got to stay patient, and we've got to keep trusting this process that can and will eventually work. So I appreciate everything that you bring into this episode right now, because it's just everything that we're about on the show. And it's always stuff that people need to be reminded of. But I'm just curious too, like when you think about your day, when you look at the way in which you go about it and you make it a successful day, how do you make that assessment at the end of the day when we're talking about these huge stretches that you can sometimes have of adversity, of maybe not seeing the results that you want to see? How do you keep that mindset that you just spoke to on a day-to-day basis in terms of finding those points of success and maybe those milestones that you need to be hitting day in, day out?
Yeah, it's interesting. Now it's a little different because I'm the manager, but when I was in the seat of the position, whether it's a cold caller, a lead manager, or an acquisition manager, what is your main objective every day? Hit your KPIs, right? Your key performance indicators, your numbers, right? Because you essentially have leading measures and you have lagging measures, right? So a sure way to quit and fail and never want to do it again is to follow lagging measures. Okay, I'm only going to chalk it up as a win if I get a deal. Well, you're most likely going to quit because it's going to take you whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get a deal. But if you're tracking the success of your day based on leading measures, right? What are the actions that are going to ultimately result in a deal based upon what other people are doing? So I knew, based upon the community I was in and the people and the podcast that I was listening to, that if I had conversations and made offers, I would get deals, right? So all I focused on every day was having conversations and making offers. So if I have 20 conversations a day, I'm on the phone for 2 hours and I make 2 offers a day, it is impossible for me to lose if I do that every single day. I'll eventually get a deal. So I would just track my day by that. Did I do these things, right? When I was cold calling, did I get 50 conversations in for the day? That was my KPI every day, 50 conversations. Did I do it? Yep, it's a win. It's a win. It's a win, right? Lead management, did I get through all my follow-up tasks? Did I set 3 to 5 appointments? I did. Okay, that's a win. So it's those leading measures.
Leading measures. I love that. Even in the word, man, like leading, it's like it's telling you right there, this is moving you from where you are to where you're trying to get to. And it may not be the end goal, it may not be the end result, but it's in some way leading you towards that end goal and where it is you're trying to get to. So love all of this, man. And I would love for you just to share now maybe why it is that entrepreneurship was for you. Like, again, when you go back to that decision you made junior year of college, and it's like, I know I can use this degree to go into this career and this career, but as someone who's taken on entrepreneurship myself in the last 2.5 years, and I've naturally just met a whole bunch of new entrepreneurs over that time as well, I'm just curious, like, why is entrepreneurship for you? What is it about Jake that we need to know that has made you the entrepreneur that you are today?
I don't know. I think it's just the fact that I wanted to be a career competitor, But like in all honesty, though, that's what it is. Like, it's a challenge, right? Not everyone can do it. So I'm like, I can do this. You know what I mean? So it's like it's this thing that everyone kind of, and it's more of a buzzword now. Like, it's more kind of sexy now to be an entrepreneur, right? So people want to do that. But I'd see people failing left and right, but I wanted to be the one who did make it, right? So kind of a superficial reason at first, but that's what it was. And I knew I had the motor to do it. Like, I had the motor to go get after it. So I was like, why am I going to go be limited with a salary? It doesn't matter how hard I work. I could work super hard or not hard. I'm making the same money. Why don't I go into a place, an industry where I can work really hard and then ultimately be compensated for how hard I'm working?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, how will you know when you have made it? You said it there. You just like, I want to go, I want to get there. Have you got there yet? Is there still is there still room to go? Like, where are you on your journey?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there, man. It's you got to understand the infinite game, right?
Right.
Simon Sinek talks about it.
Yep.
We're playing the infinite game. You don't win business, all right? I got news. You don't win, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know how you win? You just stay in the game. You don't go bankrupt. That's how you win. So I am winning right now by playing the game, right? It's the man in the arena. So if you can just stay in the arena, then you're winning. You don't win in health, right? The goal is just to stay healthy. That's how you win. So these are infinite games: business, health, marriage, relationships. The point isn't to win. There's no end result. It's just to keep going. So as long as I'm in this thing and, sticking to that why of helping other people win, I'm sure things are going to evolve and I'm going to be doing different things. But as long as I can just stay in the game, and I have to constantly remind myself that it's easier said than done. But it's like, listen, man, if you're in the game, you're winning, right? Because the goalpost is always going to move.
Right.
You make X amount of revenue, great. It's just going to keep moving. And that's when you fall into this trap of never being satisfied and all these things,
I love it. And I'm so glad as well that you just sort of mentioned there as well that, hey, I'm not doing it right all the time. Like everything that you just sort of said there was almost like note to self. This is I'm playing the infinite game, and I'm sure that's a message that you try to tell yourself, or you have people that are surrounding you that are able to tell you on those days where you're just like, man, I just thought we were going to get that deal. I just thought we were going to get here by this point, and we're not there. And so again, I'm with you. Like here I am. I got a podcast. I've got a coaching business. It's all about pursuing the optimal self, and there are days where I get irritated pursuing the optimal self. It is hard because there's a version of me that I want to have reached already that for whatever reason I feel as though I haven't. But those are few and far between. You're going to have those moments of weakness, the same way you would, as you referenced there with health. I was on a cruise for 5 days with my family. I didn't eat great the whole time I was on the cruise. I was on a cruise, for crying out loud. There's going to be times where you just pick up that little snack as you're walking around that you typically wouldn't eat. That being said, I'm still winning that sort of infinite game, if you will. I'm still playing, that infinite game regularly when it comes to my health in terms of the way I prioritize those sort of things within my life. And so I'm just glad that you're able to sort of provide that vulnerable human element here. If anyone listening is just like, neither Jake or I are sitting here saying we've got it all figured out and that we're perfect at any of this. It just happens to be the way in which, you're talking about your North Star, right? This is your North Star in terms of how you go about what you do.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to consistency over intensity, right? You can be as intense as you want as long as you can be consistent. When you get to the point of where you're going the intensity is too much every day where you cannot remain consistent, that's when you're going to fall, because I think the true gains come over long periods of time, right? The gain you'll get from being consistent over a long period of time is much greater than the gain you'll get from being intense over a short period of time. Right? Even though for us, it feels like we're doing more when we're being intense over a short period of time, but stepping back and saying, hey, if I do 75% of what I'm doing now, but just do it for 5 years, then I'm going to be in a much better position than if I'm just going 110%, for a year. But that's just, no one wants to do that because that's boring and it takes a while and you don't want to be patient. So you say, screw that. I'm just going to be intense. But that's how you burn out.
Yep. It goes with the New Year's resolutions. It's the same thing. It all falls under the same umbrella, man. But listen, Jake, this has been phenomenal. Great insight. I know there's a lot of people that have won and benefited from you being on this episode, which was your goal coming on, which I just really appreciate. But before I let you go, I know you're really active on social. You've got a bunch of ways to follow you. So please tell us where we can learn more about the business, yourself, all these kind of things we need to know.
Yeah, for sure. I think Instagram's probably the best spot. Jake_Burhans, just first name, last name. But I'm on TikTok, YouTube as well, and then LinkedIn as well. Connect with me on LinkedIn.
And all that stuff will be on the social, on my show notes. Sorry, under the episode, so you can access all of that with just one click. That won't be a problem. Before I let you go, brother, give us that one final insight. What's that final piece of information that everybody listening to this needs to know in order to continue to level up as a career competitor?
Oh. I usually say consistency over intensity, but I've already freaking beat that horse. I will say you don't have to be a champion to get started, but you do have to get started in order to be a champion.
There we go. There we go. Well, whoever, if that's a Jake original, that's a damn good quote. If it's not, then we'll figure out a way.
No, it's not. I don't know where it's from, but
we'll pull it from someone. But good, man. I appreciate you doing this. Also cooperating with me as I'm playing hurt. I got my voice. I got my tea. I've been powering through this whole interview, but I've been able to keep my voice intact this whole time. But listen, brother, thanks again. You're probably going to be a returning guest at some point down the road because you just got too much good stuff to provide. So yeah, man, best of luck with everything going down the road, and look forward to doing this again sometime.
Thanks so much, Steve. Appreciate it.
And my thanks again to Jake for joining us on the show. Just such fantastic content, and just in jest almost with the fact that he mentioned the consistency over intensity so many times within the conversation. I'm going to reiterate it yet again, one last time. Consistency over intensity, and the fact that consistency comes from the why. Do you know your why, and is it strong enough to get you through the more difficult times? That's a really simple takeaway from this. Do some work on that, folks. If you do the work on that, I assure you it will help get you through those more difficult times. So find that consistency over working with intensity today, and I'm sure some good things are going to happen for you eventually. Not necessarily tomorrow, not necessarily next week, but certainly eventually. So my thanks again to Jake for joining us, and thank you for listening as well. If you're new to the show, don't forget to subscribe on your way out. If you're not new to the show and you are just a long-time listener, I appreciate you just as much as I do the next person. It means so much to me that you keep coming back and listening to this awesome insight. Don't forget to share this episode with someone if you feel as though it had those kind of nuggets that can be of service to someone within your world. Don't hold on to those nuggets. Let them go. Share them with someone that you know can benefit from this. In the meantime, guys, as always, best of luck with anything and everything you've got going on within your world, and I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.